We spend time with Johnny Clegg, talking about the bridges he's built through music, the life and loves that inspire his songs, and the illness shaping his final journey. Johnny Clegg, welcome to Under the Skin.
Thank you.
You've been on a farewell tour, still more concerts to come. Who and what have you been saying goodbye to?
To my public, my fan base, the people who have supported me through my various incarnations throughout my life. It's been about, I don't know, my first hit single was a Friday 1976, but that was as Johnny and Sipho. Mm-hmm. And then 1978, I started to introduce hybridizing, get conversations going between English and Zulu in the same song, and all those mixing melodies, etc. And then Juluka, 1979 to 1985. Then Johnny Clegg and Savuka, which was a different kind of mix, till 1994. And then Johnny Clegg. So there's kind of 4 decades really of different ways, and that public has grown and carried through with me, and their children over these 4 decades. So internationally, only from 1984 up until current time, but in South Africa from earlier. So it's a public farewell and a thank you, because I was making another kind of music, you know. It was alternative music. It didn't get airplay. It wasn't popular. People thought, "What is this?" You know, singing English and Zulu on the same song. You know, no radio station wanted to play it because, as I was told in America twice, actually, with Juluka and Savuka, you know, if we start playing Zulu, the Germans and the Italians are going to say, "Why don't you play?" You know, we say it's, you know, we're not going to open ourselves up to that. Mm. So we became a de facto touring band. It was alive. We went into the market as a very differentiated, very energetic, high energetic live African band, and that's how we broke through.
So let's talk about your first journey as a live performer. That was in some ways brought on by necessity. Radio stations weren't playing your material for reasons that are well known, and you weren't necessarily doing Grand West Casino, but you were doing
little township
halls.
Yes.
Tell us about that time. Was that very special?
Very special, very, very special time. I was still teaching. I was lecturing in social anthropology, and it basically really started in 1980. I lectured my first year at the University of Natal Durban in 1979, and when I came back to Joburg, in that 1980 period, I had a breakthrough with Sipho, getting promoted by black promoters in places that we would never dream of going and visiting.
For example?
Kwanyamazan Stadium, Nelspruit, Giyani, Thohoyandou, Seshego, Lehurutsi on the border of South Africa and Botswana, Klerksdorp Township, all of these small mining towns which had, you know, a township, a black township next to the little mining town, Tabanchu. I mean, you know, very focused and very, very localized communities who had no, you know, Johannesburg was like, you know, New York for them.
Yes.
You know, and these promoters just exposed us as a band to a South Africa that even Sipho didn't even know existed. Our big breakthrough was by a promoter called Solly Nkuta, and he said, "I want to put you on the Orlando Stadium, Juluka." And it was a huge success, and we got all the black media. Mm-hmm. We got Drum Magazine, Bona, we got Sowetan, and we got, you know, suddenly we were a nationally recognized band, and all the interviews and all what was said about the band was amazing for us. It was a really good big validation. So at that time, we were an racially integrated band. In certain places, blacks couldn't go into the white hotels. And so what we ended up doing is sleeping in the township with the promoter, and he would farm out members of the band to some of his friends in the township.
Yes.
And we would sleep there after the gig and then travel on to the next gig. And that was also a very important acclimatizing thing for the white members in Juluga to also see, that this is actually the deep South Africa that we were living in. And it was also very important for us as writers, Sipho and myself, because we were exposed to ideas and idiomatic expressions that came out of townships that we visited, and they popped up in a lot of the Juluka songs. If we wrote entirely in Zulu, there would be some interest from Radio Zulu. If we wrote entirely in English, there would be some interested, but songs that had any like Zulu chorus and English verse, or the other way around, Bullman Free is a Zulu verse and an English chorus. Never ever got airplay from anyone. So we realized, we were marginalized on radio, but we had a very strong live show. So we toured South Africa. We were a top touring band all the time. And music, it was soccer, boxing, and music. Those were the three cultural activities. There was no cinema in the townships, and so those three cultural activities were the top three. And there was, you could make a living and you could get exposure.
Back to now, Johnny. On this particular tour, have there been songs that you've especially enjoyed singing? Because it's a goodbye tour.
Was a Friday. Because it was the first song that did well for Sipho and myself. And also the story behind it, which, when I did my honours degree, I ran out of money. So I answered an ad to manage a chicken farm in Knoppislaagte, which is just opposite Diepsloot now.
Were you good at it?
I battled. And I had to leave after 6 months. But we would wake up in the morning, 5:30, and then I would knock off at 12. I had free accommodation and 200 rand a month and all the eggs and chicken I could eat. And one Monday morning in winter, we were being read out all the work that we had to do by the farm owner. And the guy next to me said, "Achaman was a Friday." And I thought, wow, I agree. I'm going to write a song. And that song was a Zulu with a country and western melody and a country and western folk picking style called the Hammer Claw. And I took it to Radio Zulu to be played, and they banned it because I'd used English words. She said to me, "What's the word for Friday?" I said, "Olesihlanu." She said, "So why did you use the English word?" I said, "Because the idiomatic expression is was a Friday." They don't say was a Olesihlanu. Doesn't work. So they also, I said, was a Friday, my darling, my sweetie, And she said, you could have said Kukulami, you could have said anything else. You didn't use Zulu words. So we're restricting the track. And I was just, it was a terrible blow to me as a writer.
Yeah.
Also, nobody was singing like this. Nobody was singing these melodies, Zulu with Western melodies. It was it was a new thing, and they didn't want to rock the boat. Anyway, South Africa being the foremost country for political irony, it went to number 1 on Radio Sutu.
On Radio Sutu?
Sutu, yes.
Okay.
In Seshego. That was one of the first places we played. And we got a gold record for it because of the popularity. So we saw so many interesting things, that language and culture, although through the apartheid segregation of Homeland's policy and the separation of cultures, separation of language, because of all those things that were legislated for, there was another reality underneath.
Yes.
Where if a song was a good song and the sentiments, they would find it and they would buy it, and even if it wasn't in their language. And that was a very big moment for me to understand that You know, culture is learned behavior. It's something which anybody can learn, and anybody can, you know, I hear stuff sung in Spanish or in Chinese, or, you know, and it's very evocative, and I go onto the internet and I find it. So, but in South Africa at the time, it was really, nobody thought it was possible, and nobody thought that it was as if the white minority government thought that because they felt insular, that everybody else must be insulated and must also feel insular. And the radio programming was also very strictly monitored and driven by that. But we found that there was this other reality.
So what do you do with the songs now that find their way into your head? Are you still writing? Are you still having Wars of Friday moments? Obviously not exactly like that when you think, okay, there's a song?
Yeah, well, yes. You know, I use a lot of Zulu idioms and proverbs. So in the creation of a song, the suggestion comes from the song. In the new album, King of Time, there's an expression, "Wolibamba ilanga lingashoni," which means grab the sun in the sky so that it doesn't set. Freeze time. Either because the moment is so beautiful, it's something that you don't want just to be a memory. You'd like this to go on forever. Or it's saying, in another more negative sense, it's saying, when the sun goes down, you're going to be in trouble. You know, your dad will say to you,
was that a particularly poignant phrase for you right now?
Right now, yes. And that's why the album was called King of Time. So, you know, the song is really about someone who has messed up in a relationship and would like to reverse time and wants to go to speak to the King of Time and to freeze the sun in the sky. And go back and just say it again and correct things and make things good again. So, but we know that's impossible. So the notion of King of Time was for me, when it came up, I also thought, you know, I've been around a long time, and I've managed in all my incarnations to withstand and endure through the hybrid music I make. And in a sense, I am my own king of time. I've managed to, in that 40 years, you know, enable to still be here. So it was a kind of I'm still standing statement, but at the same time, there's a very deep sense of melancholy and sadness that I have to do this. You know, my songs have lasted. You know, if I look at, I can just think of MP, Scatling's Great Heart, Africa Kalabangele, Was a Friday, Ipola Letu. These songs are still being played on radio. It's a phenomenal thing. It's a bittersweet moment for me, the album, and there's certain things in the album which reflect on that. And the Final Journey tour is a bittersweet tour for me. You know, I feel like I could carry on forever, but I know that that's not possible.